Focus on Headline. And let's take a look at what major issues are making the headlines today on Focus on Headline. For this, joining us in the studio, we have our reporters Handan and Park Se-won. Guys, welcome back.
Good evening.
All right, so we're going to start things off with the local elections and the parliamentary by-elections taking place. This is, of course, following the inauguration of our new president. The 8th local elections and parliamentary by-elections finally being held today. What are the major talking points, especially as there is a change in the administration? Start us off, Se-won.
Yeah, the 8th local elections kicked off early this morning. Over 44 million eligible voters will elect mayors, governors, local council members, and regional education chiefs in today's local elections took place nationwide. South Koreans also voted for 7 National Assembly seats, with parliamentary by-elections to take place in 8 districts. The voting started at 6 a.m. and finished just now at 6 p.m. at over 14,000 polling centers nationwide. The citizens have voted in today's local elections amid expectations that the result will boost or weaken the mandate of the new government of President Yoon Suk-yeol, since they are the first national elections held in just 3 weeks after the 20th presidential election. PPP, which became the ruling party in 5 years in the recent presidential election, is expecting to win at least 9 out of 17 seats in terms of metropolitan mayors, and the biggest minor party, Democratic Party, expecting to win 5 to 6 seats to be seen as a victory. In particular, much attention is being paid to who will win in Gyeonggi-do province, which has been the biggest battleground in this election and has shown a net competition to the last minute. Voter turnout for today's local elections reached 45.4% as of 5 p.m., down by 8.5 percentage points than 4 years ago. In this local election, the final voter turnout is expected to be higher than 4 years ago at 60.2%, as the early voting turnout recorded 20.62%, the highest ever recorded in the local elections. The National Election Commission is expecting a turnout of more than 60% this time, as the early voting turnout was high.
Yeah, again, I mean, the expectations were actually pretty high, but currently I'm looking at the latest figures, 47.6%, which they're saying for the 5 p.m. figures, it's 8.5% less than 4 years ago when the last time they had the local election. So it's not coming out as high as I think what people had anticipated here.
It's quite surprising because I thought the Liberals, from their defeat in the presidential election, it was like razor thin victory and razor thin defeat, right? So I expected some more the Liberals to further consolidate this time around, to recover from their defeat, but I guess that's not the case.
No, certainly not the case right now, and it's actually surprising because I mean the early voting turnout was it was high, right? It was the highest ever recorded, but certainly not. We're not seeing this right now. But again, we'll have to see what kind of figures we get shortly. I believe the final, because in quarantine or those infected with COVID-19, I believe the ballots for that voting ends at 7:30, so we'll have to see after the show. The election results definitely will have a significant impact on the Yoon administration's running of state affairs in its early stages. Tan, give us an analysis on how different results will reshape the political landscape.
Well, first of all, the election comes just 84 days after the presidential election, and just 22 days since the launch of the new administration. So it's almost like an extended match between the two rival parties that will reflect the public sentiment towards each party. And the election results are widely expected to become a major variable that will reshape the political landscape among parties. And the outcome is also expected to either strengthen or weaken, like Se-won said, the Yoon administration's drive in running of state affairs from the early stages. If the ruling People Power Party wins big, both the government and the PPP will be empowered to make a much stronger voice at the National Assembly, despite being outnumbered by the main opposition, Democratic Party. If the DP clinches most of the victory, it's expected to provide them a momentum to recover from their their defeat in the presidential election and expand its power at the parliament to keep the Yoon administration in check. For both parties, victory in the capital region is most crucial, and eyes are particularly fixed on how the race will turn out for former presidential candidates Lee Jae-myung and An Cheol-soo, who later withdrew from the race to endorse Yoon, since the victory could help both of them gain ground in their respective parties and pave the way to another shot at the presidency. Now, An, as you know, is vying to grab the seat representing the Bundang A district of Seongnam, while Lee Jae-myung is hoping to win the seat in the Gyeang B district in Incheon. The PPP, while looking for a complete sweep on its traditional home ground, the Gyeongsang provinces, is also hoping to secure wins in key battlegrounds like Chungcheong province and Gyeonggi province. It also aims to win at least 4 of the 7 National Assembly seats in the by-elections. The DP, meanwhile, is also striving to turn the tables in provinces of Chungcheong, Gyeonggi, and Gangwon, in addition to its home turf of the Jeolla province. And how the results will reshape the power structure within parties is another point to keep an eye on, as the current leadership of respective parties will be left with no choice but to step down if its party loses in major battlegrounds.
Yeah, I think the ones that people are watching because I think An Cheol-soo with Bundang A, I think that's a no-doubter, right? I think An Cheol-soo, just judging by the polls, earlier polls before the blackout period, he had a significant lead, but Gyeang B district in Incheon, where Lee Jae-myung, the former presidential candidate, is running for, that's a close one. Gyeonggi-do province governor position is a very close one as well. So again, no way to tell at this point, because we're not going to get any of the results until about 7:45, I believe, is when they're going to start counting.
Right.
So I'm sure we'll have more results for you tomorrow. It is going to be quite a busy day tomorrow for us. Moving on here, BTS, certainly the big craze and the big news all throughout the day, because they visit the White House, as we talked about last week. What is the purpose of the visit? Was it to promote the Korean culture or K-pop, or was there something bigger? Definitely was. Sewon, take us away with this.
Yeah, on the contrary, the main purpose of their visit this time was on a quite serious topic. BTS appeared at the White House press briefing on Tuesday Eastern Time and have met with President Joe Biden as part of a visit aimed at discussing Asian inclusion and representation and addressing anti-Asian hate crimes and disinformation. BTS member Suga said through an interpreter that it's not wrong to be different, and maybe equality begins when we open up and embrace all of our differences. Another member, V, said that everyone has their own victory, and added that we hope today is a one step forward to respecting and understanding each and everyone as a valuable person. The 7 members did not take questions from reporters before leaving the White House briefing room to head to their meeting with President Biden. This is not the first time that BTS has spoken out about international issues beyond Korea. The group have been outspoken about their experiences with anti-Asian hate. Their good influence grew as they become the first Korean singer to top the Billboard main single chart. Following a series of massage parlor shootings targeting Asian women in Georgia last year, the members spoke out about their own experiences with Asian discrimination. They said that they've endured cursing without no reason and have been mocked for their appearances. We cannot put into words the pain of becoming the subject of hatred and violence. Jungkook, one of the members, said at the White House, we still feel surprised that music created by South Korean artists reaches so many people around the world, transcending languages and cultural barriers. He also added that the group believes that music is always an amazing and wonderful unifier of all things.
Yeah, again, it's really impressive that BTS, because, we say with great power comes great responsibility, and they're certainly doing a lot of great things with the power that they have right now, trying to bring about good changes. But what were some of the interesting scenes in their visit? I saw some interesting stuff. All the reporters and journalists taking out their cell phones and taking pictures of BTS at the press conference. But other than that, what else were going on there?
Yeah, someone said, put your camera down and anything.
Yeah.
And the BTS visit to the White House shows how these stars with the world's strongest fandom spread their positive influence to the world. The group drew attention with their neat fashion as well, of matching black suits and white shirts when they appeared at the briefing meeting with the White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre before the interview to explain the purpose of their visit. And the leader, RM, who is well known for his excellent English, as was demonstrated in a speech to the UN Security Council, expressed his opinion in fluent English at the briefing meeting. And after the briefing, RM moved to meet with President Biden and said thank you in Korean to the reporters.
Yeah, just a quick correction. I think it was the UN General Assembly, not at the Security Council, which would have been interesting if BTS came out saying, North Korea, please stop firing missiles.
It would have been a very timely remark as well.
It would have been nice. But yes, BTS, they actually had the speech at the UN General Assembly there. The K-pop sensation drawing a massive crowd to the White House briefing room. Also, a lot of people outside of the White House. I saw some pictures out there. The army going outside the gates, trying to get any kind of glimpse of BTS. Also, the White House YouTube channel drawing more than 300,000 viewers as well. Tan, give us the details of this.
Well, it was no business as usual at the White House, with the 7-member K-pop sensation attracting more than triple the usual number of reporters in the briefing room. As the members began to speak, reporters, like you guys mentioned, held up their phones to capture the moment, while the cameramen from the back desperately yelled, phone down, to get the best shot themselves. A reporter told Yonhap News Agency that he hasn't seen anything quite like this since President Joe Biden took office. Aside from the regular White House correspondents, some 100 foreign journalists from various countries stood around the main seats to see the event firsthand. And the BTS appearance at the White House also drew a massive spike in viewers on the White House's YouTube channel, locking in over 310,000 simultaneous viewers online. Local media outlets reported that the regularly occurring briefings, which as of late have centered on topics such as inflation and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, rarely generate anywhere near the audience size seen on Tuesday. And outside the White House were some 200 BTS fans who gathered to cheer and get a close glimpse at the members who chanted and sang BTS songs wearing purple colors. But BTS wasn't the only superstar invited to the White House in recent months, as the presidential office likes to utilize the influence of celebrities these days to draw public attention to major social issues. If you remember, it invited singer Olivia Rodrigo to promote coronavirus vaccinations, while bringing actress and singer Selena Gomez to highlight mental health. It also invited a group of power influencers on social media to fight against fake news.
Yeah, I mean, again, likewise, a lot of these celebrities and also power influencers that have so much influence on all the people out there, the young people in all over the world, not just in the United States, right? And you can kind of see, even I believe when BTS held that UN General Assembly speech at the UN YouTube channel, I mean, it was filled with fans. And so it's good that the White House, the Biden administration is using, I guess, BTS to kind of send out a proper message here. And speaking of which, going back to the issue of Asian hate crime, another survey showed that the fear of hate crimes soared in the past 2 years. Tan, you have more on this.
According to a latest survey result, physical fear of hate crimes has intensified among older Asians in the U.S. after the COVID-19 pandemic. The nonprofit organization Stop AAPI Hate and the American Retirees Association published a report on Wednesday stating that more than 1,900 hate crimes against Asians were reported to the group from March 22 to the end of last year. And of these, 820 were hate crimes against people over the age of 60. The report also analyzed that elderly Asians feel that the United States is becoming a more physically dangerous place for Asians, and that the fear and concern of violence among Asian Americans are particularly strong among those who live in densely populated urban areas.
You know, I talked to my mom, who's still in New York right now, and I've lived in the U.S. for 17 years, you know, from when I was a kid till, you know, up until college, and I've never once, even though I faced some racism and so forth, I never felt like my life would be threatened or my family's life could be threatened and that we could just randomly be jumped. But I feel that now, and I'm really scared for my family and my friends in New York, and New York is one of those places where it's so diverse that you never really have to worry about things like this, but things have really changed.
Where in New York were you raised?
Queens.
Oh, I see.
Very diverse area.
Yeah, lots of Asian population there.
Yeah, and especially where my mom is right now. It's in Flushing, where it's a highly densely, like a lot of Asians living there. But she was saying that still, almost on a weekly basis, there's Asians being targeted. And the scariest thing about all this is those that, you know, commit these hate crimes, these cowards, they basically target the older population.
Because they're weaker, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually older female females is what they're, and my mom falls into the category of over 60 Asian women, and so it's always a concerning thing for me. But going back, I mean BTS, right? Kind of not just BTS, but also celebrities out there being sort of used to promote social issues, political issues. We've seen this a number of times, and we said again, the White House has invited even names like Olivia Rodrigo, Selena Gomez, of course, BTS was a big name. What do you guys think about this? Do you think there is an impact and like this message will be delivered and then it'll spread out and then it's going to, I don't know, lower Asian hate crimes moving forward? I want to get your take on this. Let's start off with you, Sehwan.
I thought it's only good because it brings the attention to a wider audience, at least. There were 300,000 viewers to watch the BTS speaking at the White House. But I heard you saying about this topic just before the show that people who are not interested would not watch it and change their behavior according to what they're saying. But at least it brings the attention to wider audience. Like singer Kim Jong-un, he paid for this big billboard to promote Dokdo, like island issue, and like Chung Woo-sung and Angelina Jolie having their ambassador for UNHCR. So I think it's just makes people to focus on other topics. So I think it's good.
Tan, what about yourself?
Yeah, I agree. I've always been open to celebrities and influencers using their power for a good cause. For instance, Leonardo DiCaprio, from very, very long time ago, from years ago, he's been very vocal about his concerns about the environment.
Yeah.
And I think that worked. It did significantly raise the public awareness on environmental issues. And these days, if you log into various social media platforms, so many celebrities are making posts about, stop the war in Ukraine. So I think raising political awareness is always good. It always does more good than harm. So I'm very open to it. And I'm learning every day. If I log on to social media these days, half the contents are for entertainment, and the other half is almost for raising political awareness. And it gives me time to think again about various social issues. So I'm learning every day through social media platforms, which celebrities make a great deal of posts. And but I do want to mention one thing, though. It could be an abuse of power and influence, so I think we have to be very careful that celebrities, whoever the influencers are, that they don't abuse their power and influence people in the wrong way. For instance, I don't know, maybe taking subtly taking political side, or not making it obvious, but quite it's very subtly implanting or indoctrinating certain political ideas. I think we should draw a very clear line to that.
Yeah, I think BTS during the presidential election, I think they were more careful than anyone else. And even for the inauguration ceremony, right? There was some rumors that BTS might be invited, and I think that was called off for a number of reasons. I don't think BTS, knowing that, because I don't think, I don't know what their political affiliation, I don't know what side they take, but they don't want to kind of create that rift, right? And say, well, just because they went to like the inauguration of President Yoon Suk-yeol, that means, they're in support of the Yoon administration, and that might create a rift with like DP and so forth. And then if you even see like the celebrities who go out to vote, they're very careful as to what color they wear, right? Make sure it's not blue, make sure it's not red, yellow. So like the funniest one was Defcon. I don't know if you know him. He's the rapper, right? He came out wearing every single color. And he said, I'm going to go
very
neutral.
Very political neutral.
Yes, exactly. That's the way to go neutral, right? And so I like that. But here's the thing, right? When it comes to Asian hate crimes, right? You have BTS. And I hope no one is going to take this the wrong way. I respect what BTS is doing. I really like what the Biden administration has been doing to use BTS to send out this message. But I question, and then Sehwan, you kind of brought this up, and this is something I mentioned in the show before, is the 300,000 plus people who watched this on the White House YouTube channel, or the people who were listening to the message from BTS. Like, who would they be? I mean, these are people who are already accepting of Asians, right? They're not the problems.
Good point.
The people that have the problem are those that don't know and care for the Asian community. So how do you kind of get to them I think, is the big question
But
here.
they'll still hear about it. I mean, they went to the White House. It's going to make headlines everywhere.
Yeah, and I think Leonardo DiCaprio, I think you made a very good point. He kind of, his message spreads to the wider audience, I think. With BTS, I think it's a select audience that they can kind of get to. And so I like what Sewon was saying. Some people, they send, do the big billboard over in Times Square where they, talk about like hanbok or kimchi and things like that. That, like, those kind of stuff, I think, works a lot better in trying to send out some kind of message. But really, it's really tough. Kay says it would bring awareness. However, the perpetrators are highly unlikely to be aware of BTS. Plus, BTS is an issue of racism within the army base, which they have been trying to stamp out and is ongoing. Besby says Bang Nim will not allow BTS used in politics. I don't know who Bang Nim. Oh, you're talking about Bang Siak.
방님.
I was like,
방시혁.
방시혁, the composer.
yeah, he's like the father of BTS, right? He's no longer the head of Hybe anymore. But yeah, Bang Nim, I was trying to figure out who that is. Yeah, I definitely will not use BTS to be used in politics for sure. But social issues, I'm sure they're going to be continuously sending out good messages. But yeah, I only hope for the best out there because, I mean, Asian hate crime right now is just ridiculous. I'm going to shift focus to North Korea. Many experts on North Korea saying that a nuclear test may be imminent. We've been talking about this for some quite time. What's been South Korea's response to these news that we've been getting, Sewon?
Yeah, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that if North Korea conducts its 7th nuclear test, it will respond strongly, including strengthening the deterrence capabilities of the ROK and the U.S. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Choi Young-sam said at a regular briefing on the 31st that we are closely monitoring the possibility of further provocations by North Korea, including the preparations for a nuclear test in Punggye-ri, without specifying the timing, under close cooperation between South Korea and the United States. If North Korea conducts a nuclear test, he said, we will work closely with the international community to respond strongly through the adoption of new Security Council resolutions on North Korea while strengthening the execution of extended deterrence based on the strong rock U.S. combined defense posture, said Che. He added that at the meeting of the chief nuclear envoys of South Korea, the United States, and Japan to be held in Seoul on the 3rd of next month, broad consultations will be held on various issues of common interest, including the deterrence against North Korea. Government authorities and experts continue to mention that North Korea's 7th nuclear test is imminent, and it is expected that South Korea, the United States, and Japan will intensively discuss ways to cooperate to respond strongly in the event of the 7th nuclear test in the chief envoys meeting to be held next month. The adoption of the UN Security Council's sanctions against North Korea, which has recently been canceled due to China and Russia's exercise of veto, is also expected to be pushed further.
All right, but we know that with the UN Security Council sanctions, right, just unable to be passed because we have China and Russia continuously vetoing. But let's say North Korea does go on with their 7th nuclear test. Do we know how the U.S. is going to be responding in case of the nuclear test?
The United States will push for additional UN sanctions on North Korea if it goes ahead with a nuclear test. And it is said by U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. The remarks come after the UN Security Council failed to pass a U.S. proposed sanctions resolution on North Korea last week due to opposition from China and Russia. She said in a released statement that I am beyond disappointed that the Council has not been able to unify in opposition to the DPRK's unlawful WMD and ballistic missile programs, and the failure rests on China and Russia alone. And added the United States will not stand down as long as Kim Jong-un continues his unlawful WMD and ballistic missile programs and seeks to threaten regional and global security with more destabilizing ballistic missile launches. Meanwhile, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had repeatedly warned that a North Korean nuclear test may be in the offing, possibly during President Joe Biden's recently concluded trip to South Korea and Japan. Officials in Seoul and Washington Washington have noted that Pyongyang may have already completed all preparations for a nuclear test. The country conducted its last and sixth nuclear test in September 2017.
Yeah, so there was some speculation that during U.S. Memorial Day that something could happen. That was actually 2 days ago in the United States, right? So that's already passed. I think it's because they've already had the 3 ballistic missiles that they fired. So now the big speculation is that come July 4th, in Independence Day, there might be a nuclear test conducted by North Korea because, as Victor Cha did say, is North Korea likes to conduct these provocations on U.S. holidays as a quote-unquote gift to the U.S. So watching that very carefully. A rare press briefing also held by a group of foreign diplomatic envoys in South Korea to voice concerns over North Korea's involvement in the disappearance of other countries' citizens. Tan, what's this about?
You're right. In a quite rare move, the ambassadors to South Korea from France, Argentina, the Netherlands, and the UK relayed their shared stance at a joint press conference in Seoul on Tuesday, zooming in on the issue of enforced disappearance of foreign citizens and North Korea's involvement. It was held with a large banner placed at the front that read, "Exploring accountability measures for enforced disappearance committed by North Korea." French Ambassador Philippe Lefort and Argentinian Ambassador Alfredo Carlos Basco in particular urged South Korea to sign the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance and called for its ratification by the National Assembly. Argentina and France, which experienced thousands of disappearances during their military dictatorship in late 1970s to early 80s, led the adoption of the Enforced Disappearance Convention at the UN General Assembly in 2006. Currently, 68 countries have joined the convention. Forced disappearance refers to the disappearance from being arrested, detained, or kidnapped by a state agency or an organization that assumes the role of the state. North Korea's hijacking of a Korean air in 1969 also falls under forced disappearance. Now, during the same event, dozens of local civic groups working on human rights issues involving the North issued a joint statement and requested that President Yoon Suk-yeol urge Pyongyang to acknowledge its role in the coerced disappearance of South Korean people. The joint statement, signed by 33 groups, including the Citizens Alliance for North Korean Human Rights, also called for the establishment of a state apparatus to deal with related issues.
All right, we're going to move on, talk about some COVID-19 related news here. Again, we are seeing a less and less, although I have to say that it's not a big enough decline for me personally, although we did see for the first time in a really long time, I believe on Monday, numbers under 10,000. We're back to above 10,000 here. Still, the government is taking steps to return to pre-pandemic normalcy here. Are there any changes in the entry process for South Korea, Sehwan?
Yeah, South Korea's new COVID-19 cases fell below 16,000 Wednesday amid a slowing virus trend as authorities take steps for a return to pre-pandemic normalcy. The daily cases have marked a steady decline since the all-time high of more than 620,000 in mid-March. The infection numbers have fallen to 5 digits or under since April 21st. The death toll came to 24,197, up 21 from Tuesday, with the fatality rate at 0.13%. The number of critically ill patients stood at 188, up from 180 the previous day. With the slowing of COVID-19 in the country starting Wednesday, international arrivals need to take only one PCR test within the first 3 days of arrival, in line with border reopenings in other countries. Rapid antigen tests that had been required for inbound travelers by the end of the first week of arrival are now a recommendation. The age of minors for self-isolation exemption is extended to 11 from 5. Also, beginning Wednesday, the government will shut down most of the makeshift COVID-19 testing stations and temporary treatment centers across the country. Health authorities said they will increase the number of private clinics and local hospitals designated for COVID-19 treatment.
In the meantime, we want to get some latest developments in a really concerning wildfire that took place yesterday morning in Miryang. This is over in South Gyeongsang-do province. Tana, how are things looking right now?
Well, the Korea Forest Service has dispatched 57 choppers and over 1,600 firefighters to put out the main blaze. Currently, around 350 hectares are estimated to be impacted by the fire, and around 60% of it has been extinguished. They're trying to trap and put out the main blaze by tonight by simultaneous operation of the helicopters and on-foot firefighters. Fortunately, no major casualties or damages were reported so far. The fire first broke out at around 9:25 a.m. yesterday morning and spread fast amid strong winds and dry conditions. The smoke and burning smell was detected as far as Kimhae, the city south of Miryang, across the Nakdong River. The Korea Forest Service issued the highest wildfire response level of 3, deploying firefighters in nearby cities, including Daegu and Ulsan, deploying them to Miryang. It evacuated nearly 500 residents living nearby.
Yeah, it's really concerning because I don't know if you guys noticed this past, because springtime, there's a lot of rain that comes with it, but there wasn't that much rain this year. I'm not sure how things are going to be during the monsoon season, but certainly not a lot of rain, and all the dry conditions hasn't been. I mean, we've talked about a number of wildfires that took place this year alone, but while South Korea is battling with this wildfire, North Korea suffering from a serious drought that's worsening its food shortages there. Also tell us about this.
Right. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency estimates the North Korean food shortage this year amounts to 860,000 tons. This is equivalent to 2 to 3 months worth of food in North Korea. It voiced concerns that the vulnerability to food security of North Koreans has increased, especially due to economic constraints caused by the aftermath of COVID-19. The poor food situation in North Korea this year was also confirmed through satellite images. According to the Voice of America, nearly all parts of North Korea were marked in dark red, indicating that the drought is at severe level across the state.
I mean, you would think that the regime will do something different if there are people are suffering this much, but yet all we're seeing is provocations after provocations and after provocations here. Unfortunately, not enough help being sent over there. Not only the food shortage issue, but COVID-19 issue is still something that's very concerning in North Korea. So can we get also the latest numbers there?
Sure. North Korea reported 93,180 new fever cases Wednesday, 3 weeks after announcing a COVID-19 outbreak there. More than 93,180 people showed symptoms of fever over a 24-hour period until 6 p.m. the previous day, the official Korean Central News Agency said, citing data from the State Emergency Epidemic Prevention Headquarters. It provided no further information regarding additional deaths. The total number of fever cases since late April came close to 3.74 million as of 6 p.m. Tuesday, of which more than 3.56 million have recovered and at least 177,770 are being treated, it added. The country's daily fever tally has been on a downward trend after peaking at over 392,920 on May 15th. On May 12th, North Korea disclosed its first COVID-19 case after claiming to be coronavirus-free for over 2 years.
Yeah, even, again, I'm hoping it's true, but even the death toll, right, kind of leaves you with some question marks because even South Korea, when they saw numbers like this, they were seeing double-digit fatality.
That's right.
But a lot of people are saying, I mentioned this yesterday on the show, but the COVID-19 numbers that we usually get from like the WHO and so forth, they're not putting any numbers up for North Korea because they don't think it's the actual numbers. So that's a big problem right now. But also, just a quick update on the local elections and the parliamentary by-elections. We got some voter turnout rate as of 6 p.m., 50%. So it is relatively low.
We have less than an hour left.
Yeah, we have about an hour left because as of 6:30, right? It's 6:37 right now. So as of 6:30, the voting for those that have COVID-19 or are in quarantine, they have started their voting, and that will end at 7:30. We will get some of the results starting at 7:45. But I'm sure here in the program and focus on a headline that we'll cover all that and more in tomorrow's program. Until then, guys, thank you very much for your coverage and your insights on some of these issues. Stay safe, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
You can listen to Korea Now with me, SJ Lee, by downloading the Arirang Radio application or tune in online by visiting www.arirangradio.com. So make sure you tune in Mondays through Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Korea time.